What's happening, boxing fans? It's Rodney De La Paz. This weekend, April 3rd, is the rematch between Roy Jones Jr. and Bernard Hopkins. Very, very exciting matchup. Two legends of the sport contributed a great deal amount to the sport of boxing. So I'm definitely going to get the fight, and it's going to be very, very interesting. Because of course this is going to be completely different circumstances from the first time that they fought back in the 90s. Okay, of course after that fight, the first one, Roy Jones Jr. got the decision in the fight and pretty much went separate in their careers. Bernard Hopkins went on to successfully defending his title, I believe like 11 times. And then Roy Jones Jr. went off and, also hit legendary status with his very, very unorthodox style of boxing. So again, this is going to be a completely different type of fight, because now you're going to have Bernard Hopkins, who's a seasoned veteran. So this is going to be really cool. So to break it down technically, I've watched a lot of Bernard Hopkins fights. His strengths, he's very, very technical fighter. I would say he's very, very academic in the sense that he has a very, very tight stance. He moves very, fluidly, and he's extremely smart in the ring. So my guess is that since he's not uncomfortable, he's very, very comfortable being on the inside and getting very close to his opponents, where he can score very tight, shots to, uppercuts. He's got both hands. He's very, very deadly with both hands. He could knock people out with either hand. So my guess, he's going to press Roy Jones Jr. early and establish an inside game and really put the pressure and set the pace to Roy Jones. Okay, and Roy Jones Jr.'s his challenge is to try to keep a distance from Bernard Hopkins. So he's going to play his little, his cockfighting, style. He's going to, and to be quite honest with you, I'm not sure if it's going to really work against Bernard Hopkins, because Bernard Hopkins, he's a very, very good counterpuncher. And Roy Jones Jr., when he throws jabs, he flails a lot. He puts his hand up here. He flails like this. He usually throws his jabs from his hip. He kind of walks around, like this. And to be honest with you, I think in the long run, that's going to actually hurt him, because fundamentally, he's open. Yes, he's very fast, but at the same time, I don't think he's that much faster than Bernard Hopkins. He was able to get away with that, with that kind of style and flailing and, kind of keeping his hands down with other fighters, because they were a lot slower, okay? But not against Bernard Hopkins. Especially Bernard Hopkins now, he has nothing to lose. He's got a lot more balls now, because he's an old fighter now. He's very seasoned. He's got really nothing to prove anymore, except for the fact that this fight, he's wanted this rematch for the longest time. So now that he's going to step foot in the ring with Roy Jones Jr., it's going to be his turn to show the world that he can actually dominate Roy Jones Jr. So when, and his, it's probably marketing and all, but when he says in his interviews that he's hungry for this fight, that it's personal, I really believe him. This is actually personal. He's got a chip on his shoulder from this one loss that happened very early in his career, and I think he's going to be drooling and salivating for this win. So I honestly think that Bernard Hopkins is a lot hungrier, and he's going to be a lot more dangerous than Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr., we all know that his jaw is questionable in this part of his career. I think he's kind of got one too many losses under his belt now, so mentally I don't think he has the edge anymore. Yes, he might be able to talk a big game, but the person who has been between the two that have been really backing up their talk is the executioner, Bernard Hopkins. So my guess, I don't really see a knockout. If there is a knockout, I predict that that Bernard Hopkins is going to knock out Roy Jones Jr. But my gut instinct is that it's going to go to a 12-round decision to Bernard Hopkins, and Bernard Hopkins is the one that's going to be putting the pressure. He's very comfortable on the inside. He's going to be pushing, Roy Jones Jr. up against the ropes. And maybe, who knows, maybe he'll back himself up into the ropes to bait Roy Jones Jr. by the ropes. But if Roy Jones Jr. is smart, he's not going to fall for that. And he's going to want to stay in the middle of the ring and try to fight a distance game and try to beat Bernard Hopkins to the punch. All right? Again, I honestly think that it's going to be a decision to Bernard Hopkins after 12 rounds, no knockout. We'll talk about it.